Hundreds of Georgians have taken part in anti-government protests following the announcement of the ex-Manchester City player Mikhail Kavalashvili as the country's new president. Well, let's bring in now Blair McDougall, Labour MP for East Renfrewshire. Blair, appreciate your time this morning. You sit on the Commons Foreign Affairs Select Committee. Just talk to us about the concern you have with regards to the general situation in Georgia at the moment.
The general situation in Georgia is that a government which has been backsliding on democracy and the rule of law for some time is now engaged in an increasingly brutal crackdown on peaceful protesters. And our concern here primarily, obviously, is about the people of Georgia. But there's also a feeling that we've been here before. Next door in Ukraine, we saw similar activities there. And behind all of this is two things. One, the malign influence of Russian money, Russian propaganda, and Putin's influence, but also some very wealthy and corrupt individuals who believe that democratic standards of government are a threat to their wealth and their power.
I suppose as well, we shouldn't be surprised about the interactions between Russia and Georgia. Think back to 2008, the war, with regards to kind of the breakaway territories in Georgia. To what degree has the international community been able to respond and try and police and intervene in this situation?
Well, I think the Kavalashvili, who you mentioned, I mean, we're familiar with him from Match of the Day, perhaps, but he's very much part of this narrative that his party has, which uses the threat of Russian invasion as an excuse for their own attacks and their own backsliding on democracy and human rights. And it's often, difficult to see what we can do in the West with these things. The EU has been very strong in saying to Georgia that you can't behave in this way and be part of the process of joining. But in the UK too, we can look at things like, for example, the propaganda arm, the TV station of this regime that is attacking these protesters, operates out of London. So there are things that the UK government and Britain can do to push back on this and to make clear that what's going on there simply isn't acceptable.
Tell us more about what you mean by these allegations.
Well, there is a television station called Imedi TV, which is very much there cheering on the violence against these protesters, peaceful protesters. And it operates from a company called Hunwell Partners. I raised this in Parliament the other day in the City of London. And this is a familiar story, people who are involved in and who support the destruction of rule of law in their own countries so often choose to locate themselves, their wealth and their families in countries where they do enjoy human rights and they do enjoy the safety of knowing that there are proper legal processes. And that's one of the things that's going on here is you've got this television station owned and directed from here in London. And that's, as I say, just one of the things that I think we have open to us in terms of sending a message to the government in Georgia that this pro-Russian direction that they're going on, this anti-democratic direction they're going on, isn't acceptable.
Now, Hunwell and Imedi aren't here with us at the moment, but they have kind of shared their response to your points of view. And they say, well, hang on a second, Imedi is the largest TV channel in Georgia, bigger than many of its competitors combined. They say they're not pro-Western, they say they're not pro-Russian, they say that they're neutral in the middle, and that, in fact, even their offices in previous years were targeted as part of a wider media crackdown. They would say they're a legitimate channel. What's your response to that?
Previous years, that's absolutely true, but they've come a long way since then. The Georgia Dream, the party that they do support, and they've explicitly said that that is their job, the owners have explicitly said that, used to be a pro-Western, pro-democracy party, but it has dramatically shifted under the influence of oligarchs there to a completely different position. They're taking Georgia on a journey cheered on by Imedi TV, which completely undermines those human rights, which previously, yes, that television station and many people within that party were part of the struggle to win. And so, I think the trouble with the owners of this television station is that their own statements are completely at odds with what they're claiming to do. They operate out of the UK, they are part of this problem, and they are there for us to do something about.
They say that your call for an investigation has no basis, I quote, in either law or fact. You're calling for a debate in Parliament. You're calling for this to be discussed further in Parliament. What are you going to present to parliamentary colleagues if given the opportunity to do so?
Well, we can go through the coverage of this television station. We can show them cheering on and being part of these violent protests, violent response to peaceful protesters in Georgia. And as I say, we can go to the owner's own statements where they explicitly say that they are there to destruct the opposition. But this is just one part of it. We need to look at those government figures who are engaged in these violent protests. We have the tool of targeted sanctions available to us. And as I said earlier on, we've been here before, and I think in places like Ukraine and other countries, we wish that we'd acted earlier to stop this backsliding. We've got to show to these wealthy and powerful elites who are involved in an attack on their own people that there are consequences for what they're doing.
Joining us live from Glasgow, Labour MP Blair McDougall, thank you.